If you don't know how to ride a dirt bike, I'm going to teach you how to ride in 3 easy steps. What's up guys, I'm Dakota Freeman and welcome to the Rad Adventure Dude channel. If you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, go ahead and hit it now and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any of my future dirt bike riding tips. When learning how to ride a dirt bike for the first time, we want to break it down and make it easy in 3 simple steps. We will cover all the controls you need to know and how to use them to ride your dirt bike. We're going to go over rider body position, and then we're going to learn how to stop the bikes to avoid the most common mistakes. These tips are going to get you through this stage of riding to get you out on the trails and tracks to be even faster. So what are all the controls on a dirt bike? So on a dirt bike, we're going to have 5 different controls. 3 of these controls are going to be located on the handlebars. That's going to be the throttle, the clutch, and the front brake. The other 2 controls that we have are going to be located by our feet. Our left foot is going to have the gear shifter, and our right foot is going to have the back brake. All 5 of these controls are going to be what you use to be able to move the bike and to get the most control out of it as possible. So how do we use these controls to operate the dirt bike? The first one we're going to cover is the throttle. This is how we accelerate and go faster on our dirt bike. The second one is going to be our clutch. The clutch is how we're going to shift up and down through the gears to be able to get in the proper gear that we need to be in at the right time when we're learning how to ride. This is also how we're going to get the bike moving the very first time we get going on our dirt bikes. The next control I want to cover is also on the handlebars, and it is the front brake. The front brake is located right in front of the throttle, and this front brake is how we truly stop the bikes the fastest. Be careful when learning how to ride a dirt bike and using this front brake, as when you grab it really hard, it can lock the front wheel up and put you on the ground. But as you get better with this over time, the front brake is what you're going to be using 90% of the time. The next 2 controls I want to cover are going to be by our feet, and that's going to be by our left foot, the gear shifter. The gear shifter is going to be how we shift up and shift down through our gears to be able to make sure that we're in the proper gear at the right time. This gear shifter is going to be used with the clutch every single time we shift up or shift down. This is because when we're shifting, the clutch frees up the motor and makes it smoother whenever you put it into the next gear. The last control that we want to talk about is going to be our back brake. The back brake is located by our right foot, and all you do is press down on that lever, and that's going to engage the back brake. So now that we know where all these controls are, let's go ahead and cover the clutch and how to use it to get the bike going into motion very quickly. So when learning how to use a clutch on a dirt bike for the first time, we want to pull the clutch in and put the bike down into first gear. This is going to be how we get out of neutral and get the bike rolling into motion. Once we've put the bike into first gear, you're going to want to start to let the clutch out until you feel the RPMs of the motor drop and the bike wanting to start to move forward. At this point, you're going to want to start to apply a little bit of throttle. You don't need much at all. And once you start to put on a little bit of throttle, you're going to want to continue slowly letting the clutch out the rest of the way. Once you've released the clutch completely and you have a little bit of throttle on, you're going to start moving on your bike. Don't feel like you have to hold the throttle on now that you're moving. You can actually let the throttle off and then just slightly use the throttle when you need it. And once we're moving on our bike, we're going to actually go through the same order of operations to use our clutch, except now that we're moving, we don't have to worry about letting the clutch out with the throttle. We're going to just simply let the throttle off, pull the clutch in, make our gear shift, let the clutch back out, and then return to our throttle. This is how you're going to go up and down through the gears to be able to get into the right gear at the right time when you're learning on your dirt bike. For more information on mastering our clutch, you can watch the video that's going to pop up right up here. I think it's really going to help you get better at using your clutch and really dive into the techniques of mastering your clutch. So now that we've covered all the different controls and how to use them, let's go ahead and go over where we want to sit on our dirt bike. The proper riding position is going to be huge to making you a better dirt bike rider. When we're in the proper riding position, not only are you going to be smoother and faster, you're also going to be much safer because you're going to have more control over your dirt bike. So where do we want to sit on the dirt bike when we're just learning? We really want to sit somewhere in the middle of the dirt bike. We don't want to get too far back or too far forward. Sitting in the middle is going to make it more comfortable for you, and it keeps all your weight in the center of the dirt bike. Where do we want our head? We really want to make sure that our head is forward on the motorcycle and over the handlebars. Being over top of the dirt bike just gives you more control and more power when using the handlebars, and if something happens and kind of pushes you around or knocks you off path, you're going to have all the leverage from being on top of the dirt bike and really be able to save it if something happens. We also want to make sure that when we're riding, we don't have our elbows down and near our body. We want to make sure that they are up and away from our body. This is going to add in to having more control and more power over the handlebars. Also, where do we want our feet when we're learning how to ride our dirt bikes? We really want to make sure that we stand on the balls of our feet to make sure that there's no accidental gear shifting or back brake use. Keeping your feet back a little bit is going to also give you more suspension out of your ankles because of the articulation that you have right where you're standing. So let's go over how we want our hands whenever we're using the handlebars. We want to make sure that we're in a nice relaxed position and we're not over gripping on the motorcycle. As our elbows are out and away from our body, you should be able to put both your fingers out and be able to touch both of the controls on the handlebars. You don't want your levers too low or too high. You really want them pretty nice and straight out from where you're going to be gripping, maybe just slightly down a little bit. Other than that, you want to be able to grip the handlebars comfortably and just reach your fingers out and be able to touch these controls. Once you put all this together, you're really going to start getting so much faster on your dirt bike. I know this is a lot right now, but if you're feeling confident on your dirt bike and ready to get out there and rip the trails, make sure you like this video and drop some comments down below. Feel free to ask me any questions that you have. Now let's go over how to stop the dirt bike and avoid the most common riding mistakes. So when we're going through the gears and practicing our riding, we're going to want to make sure that we get back in a low gear whenever we're bringing the bike to a stop. So use the controls, use the gear shifter, and get your bike back into a lower gear so it's easy to stop the bike. Knowing how to stop the dirt bike before you even get riding is going to be very important to keeping you safe. You want to know how to use these controls to bring the bike to a stop, so before you get into a bad situation, you can do this and really save yourself. The first thing we want to focus on is when we're starting to ride, don't tense up your body. You really want to stay very relaxed and focus on where you're going. If you over tense your body, you're going to be gripping really hard, and it's actually going to make it harder and more dangerous for you when you're learning. Being able to relax is simply going to calm you down, and you're going to be able to focus on what you're doing, how you're doing it, and where you are going. These are going to be key factors to keeping you safe when you're learning how to ride on your dirt bike. So we want to focus on using all these controls in the correct way. This way, whenever we're on the trails and tracks and we're riding, if something comes up along the way, you want to know exactly how to use these without even having to think about it, so your body naturally responds. Another thing I see riders doing when they're first getting on the bike is when they let the clutch all the way out and they have the throttle on a little bit, they don't know to simply release the throttle at this point. Once you're rolling, you don't have to have this on. And a lot of the times people will start going, and then once they start picking up momentum, it kind of scares them, they tensen up, and this is a recipe for disaster. So it's okay once you start moving on the dirt bike, just simply let the throttle off, and this is going to really get you relaxed on your dirt bike. So the more you focus on all these different things going on and continue practicing them over time is going to make you a much better rider. Know the controls, know how to use them, and know what they're for. I really know this is a lot going on right now, and I just wanted to tell you you're doing great. I'm really proud of you for taking this next step in your dirt bike riding, and don't get frustrated and just focus on where you're going and how to get more comfortable on your bike. Other common dirt bike riding mistakes would be sitting too far back on the dirt bike. Getting too far back on your dirt bike is actually going to pick the front wheel up and make it easier to do wheelies. And when we're learning, we really don't want the front wheel coming off the ground. So to fix this, we want to just make sure that we're not sitting on the back of the bike and we move back towards the center of the bike. Being in the middle is going to give you a good center of gravity and make it much easier to learn when you're riding your dirt bike. The second common mistake is going to be over gripping the dirt bike. Over gripping the dirt bike is really just going to tense up your muscles, tense up your body, and wear you out faster. When you're tensed up on the dirt bike, you're not relaxed and able to take what's coming at you. And when you get hit with bumps or anything, it's going to jar you around. So just make sure you relax when you're riding and stay comfortable. The third common thing that I see riders doing when they're just learning is they're not focused on where they're headed. Make sure you're always paying attention to where the bike is going. I know there's a lot going on, but we need to keep our eyes up and focused ahead on the trail. This way you don't run into anything, run off the trail, run into anything that's in front of you. It's a very common mistake that people get so much going on that they quit paying attention to where they're going. The fourth and the last common mistake I'm going to cover today is going to be using too much front brake. Whenever you grab too much front brake, it's going to lock the wheel up and send you to the ground. This is going to be how you master your braking, but right now just focus on using it slightly and mainly focus on using the back brake to bring you to a stop the safest way possible. Are you struggling with your riding and need more help? I'm always here. I've created a full step-by-step guide for dirt bike beginners to walk them through everything they're going to see on the tracks and trails. So accelerate your learning curve on your dirt bike and hop in my class today. Make sure you click right here and hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any of my future riding tips. After that, you can watch my next video on how to shift your gears right here. So go ahead and click on it, stay rad, and I'll see you guys over there.